Hey guys, fun with Hairpin. New makeshift magnetic repelled spark gap. I can move this monster 1-inch neodymium N52, I think, up under there and minorly fluctuate the arcing. Arcing directly off the transformer, just as in the picture there. And we've got 3 nanofarad and 3 nanofarad in series with 2 legs, and we've got the primary of this acting as the hairpin side inductor. The center of this inductor is going to the ground rod outside. So as you see in the picture there, it goes down to an earth rod, and then I've got another earth rod set up and some wires running in between them, and I'll show you. We've got a light bulb out there, another spark gap, and a condenser. So most of this will be done outside. Hold on. Okay, back out here. As you can see, I'm going to turn it on, and I'll put this down here. You can see this light bulb is touching the first earth rod. You can make it out. The rod's down here. It's really far in the ground, all but about a foot of it. And that center tap on the hairpin inductor is coming right along this wire over here, and it's going right to that post that you can't see right now because it's dark. You gotta take my word for it. Then there's another wire coming off of it, going over here to this table, and it's going into that spark gap there, and the other side of the spark gap is going to this other ground rod that, let's see if I can get it to see it here. Well, anyway, this rod here with the top load just hanging out there. So anyway, we've got a wire going from this ground rod to that ground rod. So now I'm going to set this bulb here, lean it against the garage, and see if it's lighting up. Now, this is off the ground rod for one. If that isn't strange enough, I'm going to unplug this wire now that's coming from the other. This is the first ground rod wire, where that connected right to where the bottom of that light is touching. And as you can see, the amount of voltage coming through here. I can touch this with my hand. I can hold the wire in my hand and feel absolutely nothing. It will arc to my hand, as you see. Here's the other ground rod. It will arc to my hand like that, and there's a slight tingle from it. But as soon as you can get past that for a microsecond, grabbing a hold of the wire, you can hold it with no problem. So this wire is coming right off that ground rod down there, which is only 2 feet away from this ground rod. And I've got that much potential difference between the two. And compared to the surface of the garage, I can put it out here. That looks pretty nasty. I mean, I could touch this to the ground and I don't get any sparks out of it. I put it down in the dirt down here, anything. But there's quite a difference to the gap. Quit working. All right. Work with me, damn it. Okay, I'm gonna put this back in the spark gap. As you can see, now the spark gap's open, and it's going in series through this incandescent bulb. I think it's a 60-watt bulb. And in parallel with that is the condenser. Now, just like before with one-wire transmission, adding more only high voltage capacitance or low capacitance as well, in parallel with the load, increase the current available to the load. So if I was to unhook this capacitor, you can see that the light is way dimmer. There's just not as much current going to it. You can see it doesn't quite, well, I guess it's hard to tell on the camera. It's a good bit dimmer here without it. I'll hook it back up. So, one might theorize that adding much more capacitance in parallel with the load would supplement current. Now, I'll take this bulb off, and the top of that condenser is also going to this coil here. and you see nothing's happening when the load's on. Not getting anything out of it. Touch this bulb to the rod, I don't get any illumination out of it. But if I close this spark gap to where it's either arcing or completely closed, at this point now I get quite a bit of voltage going through this coil here off the top of the condenser. It would be from the other rod. And then of course when I touch the, it's going to make a liar out of me now. There it is. When I touch it to the earth rod, the second earth rod, it lights up as well. So there's quite a potential difference between these two things, these two rods. If I unhook this wire, the speedier wire here, see, from the first coil, and I touch it right to the same rod that you really can't see, no sparks, nothing. There's no difference in potential from the rod through this piece of wire I have, which is about 6-8 foot long, back to the same rod. But 2 feet over to the other rod, we have quite a potential difference. Now, you can't tell me that it doesn't make sense that all the current and high voltage going right into that ground rod would be so abundant that I'm still leaking even more out of this. If that makes any sense. Got grass on it. So it's quite interesting how it has a similar properties as the hairpin, or as the one wire with a step down, but there's no step down here, which that may give me a little bit better current as well. I'll try setting that up. The magnetic gap helps a lot with the illumination of the bulb. When the frequency is a lot higher or lower and higher, it doesn't want to work right. So there's a tuning that I'm getting just by blowing out that gap a little faster with the magnet. I can touch this rod, put my hand on that. I can stick my hand on this rod, not feel anything. But yet, there's enough HP there to light this bulb. I can touch the top of the bulb, no sparks coming out of my hand. Get on there. You see a little tiny arc to the garage through the bulb. I think the siding of the garage has a large capacitance, which is really the key, I think, here to accumulating this potential difference, because it's much stronger than the ground rod. Let's go in here for a second. Alright, so I'll turn it on and show you what's going on in here. Like I said, that's the schematic. It smells like ozone in here. I am getting a decent amount of induction into the secondary. It's also hooked to the first earth rod on the bottom. But even without it, I get about 1/4 of an inch of plasma on there, and a little bit more on this tertiary. And when it's hooked up differently, that makes quite a show. Anyway, here's the gap. I made this little block. Oh, I told you that already. So yeah, quite an interesting behavior from this hairpin. What's going on this side here, where it can be hooked straight to ground and still have significant energy to be able to light incandescent bulbs and light up HV fluorescent bulbs in series.